Women's Medaille in die Pesachnes, das kannst du schon nicht lernen. Schau mal zusammen, sag. Ja, ich werde ernst. Es war eine Pesachnes, und dort sind nicht lernen. Ah? What page? Nee, maar dan heb ik dan naar mij meer. Bhaloscha, ja. Bhaloscha Es Haneiros, we hebben hier de copies. Yeah. Hi, Rami, how are you? Baruch Hashem. Baruch Hashem. Okay. He has one. Do you have one, or I didn't give you one? Okay. Oh, you have one.
Take care, Colin.
It's double-sided. Double-sided. Okay, so we're going to learn the Maimer of Bhaloscha Es Haneiros Lamed Daled. So Maimer, the Rebbe usually said a Maimer, or many times said a Maimer on Tesva of Sivan. Tesva of Sivan, the Rebbe made it into a special day that you say a Maimer. What's Tesva of Sivan? Tesva of Sivan. Oh, the anniversary of the original participants in the shir, from the founder of the shir. But Tesva of Sivan is the day that the Fidik Rebbe was arrested.
And I had discussed us get arrested.
Where, when, what?
Remember?
No. Oh, when, in 91?
Yeah. But they were going to Kailo, you don't remember?
Something in the memory. I was a little kid then.
Strasbourg did it, and I thought I had a red beard.
Yeah, that was a long time ago. Okay.
1992.
So you said for all of us.
Open up one eye.
So we have like this. We have Bhaloscha Es Haneiros. The Rebbe said this Maimer. The Rebbe said many Mamorim in honor of Tesva of Sivan. So we don't usually find this, that on the day that the Rebbe was arrested, we turn it into a special day to say a Maimer. That's what the Rebbe does. That's Chav Ches Sivan. That's Chav Ches Sivan. I very much wanted to learn of Chav Ches Sivan Maimer. I looked, they're all difficult Mamorim, or I don't know. I figured for the share would be better, but
Pretty guy was arrested.
this is when the Fidik Rebbe was arrested.
And he got, well, you based out, you
Yeah. The goal before the goal of Gimel Yan, you basically Gimel Thomas in Leningrad. Okay, so let's learn the Maimer. Bhaloscha Es Haneiros. It says in the pasuk that when Aaron lights the candles of the menorah, so Pnei HaMenorah Yeiru Shivas Haneiros, towards the center of the menorah, the menorah should light. The menorah should light towards the center of the menorah. The Fidik Rebbe, the Balamaiser Vagula asks in his Maimer, first, the pasuk says, Bhaloscha Es Haneiros Neiros Stam. The pasuk doesn't detail any number of candles. And then the pasuk says again, that the 7 candles should light. So why do we have one case we don't mention any number of the candles, and in the second case we do mention a number of the candles? The Gam Tzarich Lav and we also have to understand why the pasuk says that the 7 candles should light towards the center of the menorah. Pnei HaMenorah actually means the center candle of the menorah, not only the center of the menorah, but the center candle of the menorah. So if you have the center candle of the menorah out of the count, and the 3 candles on this side and the 3 candles on the other side are lighting towards it, or the wicks are bent towards it, or on that side of the lamp, so you have 6 candles. There are 6 candles that are facing the center candle. Why 7 candles? Could it be the Haneiros Shalem Nemer Bhaloscha Es Haneiros Haneiros Shalem Nemer Yiru Shivas Haneiros Shnei and Yan. The Fidik Rebbe explains in his Maimer that there are 2 ideas, there are 2 concepts on Inyanim in the Neiros. There's 2 separate Inyanim. There's the Inyan of Bhaloscha Es Haneiros, that's one Inyan, and there's the Inyan of Shivas Haneiros. And he starts with the first one. Bhaloscha Es Haneiros, this is which Inyan? Neiros Stam. This is the meaning of the neshamas of the Yidden, which are called a candle, like it says in the pasuk, Nedavai Nishmas Adam, that the soul of a person, the soul of a yid, is a candle of Hashem. The K'may, why is the soul of a yid compared to a candle? The K'may Shaner Tivei Lalis L'Malali Davik B'Sharshe, just like a candle, its nature is that it tries to go up and escape the wick and to become one and attached with its source. In the element, in the general element of fire, which finds itself beneath the wheel of that the moon orbits in. So that's why it's always going up towards its source, or up there. Similarly, in the same way, the neshama has a nature within it that it always wants to go up and away from itself and go back and become included in the source from which it was hewn, in the place from which it was taken. So the neshama of a yid, by its nature, doesn't want to stay on neshama as it is. It wants to go back to its source and become one with Elikus, attach itself to Elikus. So that's the idea of Bhaloscha Es Haneiros. It's the neshama that wants to become one with Elikus. So why do we have Bhaloscha Es Haneiros? Neshama is to Biyah. When you're talking about the neshamas of Biyah, in other words, not the neshamas of Atzilus, the neshamas of Biyah, which represent the neshamas of most of Klal Yisrael. So what happens when the neshama encloses itself in a body? When the neshama comes down into this physical world to give life to a body, so then the nature that it has to go up with Ratzik, to go up and become one with Elikus, so that becomes hidden. And it's the work of Aaron to awaken and to reveal the innate nature that the neshama has on its own, but is just hidden, that it should want to go up. That's his work, to lift them up. That this nature of the neshama should be revealed. It says before the neshama comes down into a guf, so its nature is active. When it comes down into a guf, it still has that nature, but the nature is hidden and covered over. It's not active. So Aaron Akain's Aveda is Bhaloscha Es Haneiros. He has to bring to it that the natives should again remember and activate their nature, that they should be in a state of ratzoi, of returning and going back to Elikus, to where it came from. So that's the first idea of natives that's in this pasuk Bhaloscha Es Haneiros. Then we have a second type of natives, or a second idea in natives. When the pasuk continues and says that the 7 candles should light, that the pasuk is referring to the luminaries that are in the heavens. What are these Shivas Haneiros B'rikei Hashemayim? So Bapashtas is talking about the 7 planets. So we have Shivas Haneiros. No problem. We have Shivas Haneiros. What's Shivas Haneiros? Shivas Haneiros is the what does he call them? The Ma'eris B'rikei Hashemayim, of which there are 7. So L'chora, it's talking about the planets, which is sometimes also called the stars. In other words, what by the Goyim they call the 8 planets. So we don't count the Earth as a planet. They used to count 9 planets, and that didn't fit with our count, and then they took one off. So now they came closer to the view of Torah. So you have L'chora B'Pashtus, the 7 planets, the sun and the moon and all the others. So they are the Ma'eris, and that's what the pasuk is referring to when it says Yiru Shivas Haneiros. Okay. Like it says in the Medrash, the Mishkan is equal to the entire universe, to the entire creation. All things that existed when the Eibishter created the world that were brought into existence. So you had similar concepts in the Mishkan. The Meneder which was in the Mishkan, he corresponded to the luminaries that the Eibishter created in the heavens. If so, if they correspond to the luminaries that are in the heaven that Hashem created when He created the world, so why does it say 7 candles? When the Eibishter created the Me'eris, the luminaries in the sky, it says in the Asaram Amaris, in Sheshis Yimei Beishis, it says that He created only 2. So he says, the reason that it says two over there is because the sun and the moon are the primary Ma'edis or the main Ma'edis. But if you go into details, Yeshlam Shiva Ma'edis. There are actually 7 of them in total. So what's the pshat now in the pasuk? How does the whole pasuk come together? The 7 luminaries will light. So it says like this: through the work of Adam, to cause that the neshamas of the Yidden should have this nature of ratzoi, of aliyah, of returning to the Eibishter. The neshama is the biyayiyah b'em haratzoi lelikus begilui. When this happens, when Aaron causes the natives of Nesol to be in a matzav of ratzin, a matzav of Bhaloscha of aliyah, so then you have Yerushivas Haneiros, Shanasa Teisvus Eid B'Hamaimid Imaedis, that now there's an additional light in the Maimid Imaedis that existed at the time of creation. Al derech Sarah Yisif al Maedis. Al derech what it says in Medrash, when you get to Sarah, that she added to the Maedis. I'm not sure what that Medrash says, but as they state in the Medrash. So al derech, just like when you get to Sarah, it says that Sarah added on the Maedis. So al derech Zed says in the Maimer, but the Fitikov explains that Aaron adds in the Eid of the Maimer Yehim Eidis. So when the Eibishter created it, there was one level of Eid, and through the Aved of Aaron Akain, now even more Eid is drawn down into this Maimer Yehida Kibim Eidis Hashemayim. Okay, so that's the complete pasuk, yeah? Of Aaron Akain is Bhaloscha Es Haneiros. He brings about the Teva of Ratzei within the Yidden that it should be Begilui, and that causes that it should be a taste for Seidi, Yerushivas Haneiros, that the 7 Ma'edis in the Rikei Hashemayim should have not only the 7 Ma'edis, even the Maimer Yehim Ma'edis should have a taste for Seidi, should have a new light. Okay. The Rebbe says that from this, that the natives, the literal natives in the Meneda, refer to from this that the pasuk literally is referring to the natives of the Meneda, the candles of the Meneda. Move on. So we understand from this that Bhaloscha Es Haneiros b'pnimius is a reference to the neshamas of the Yidden, that the pnimius of the Meneda is the neshamas of the Yidden. In other words, yeah, it's a little, I said it in a little bit complicated way, but the point is very simple. What's Bhaloscha Es Haneiros? The candles of the Meneda, yeah? What's Bhaloscha Es Haneiros? Is the neshamas of the Yidden. Okay, yeah, he's going to lift them up, it's the neshamas of the Yidden. So the Rebbe is saying that Bhaloscha Es Haneiros means that the pnimius of the natives of the Meneda are the neshamas of the Yidden. So the Meneda in the Beis Mikdash has a pnimius and a chitzenis, and what's the pnimius? The pnimius is the neshamas of the Yidden. The Rebbe adds in the brackets to explain to you his point. What the Rebbe is saying, the neisif l'zashan neshamas haneiros b'chlal him neiros haMeneda. In other words, in addition to the fact that we said nei havaya nishmas adam, that a neshama b'chlal is called a light, is called a candle. So in addition to that, the neshamas are also the candles of the Meneda itself. If so, if the pnimius of the natives of the Meneda are the neshamas of the Yidden, and we find 7 candles, so there must be a connection to the Yidden, that there's 7 in the Yidden, and that's why there's 7 candles in the Meneda. And he says that's because the neshamas of the Yidden are divided into 7 different types. So according to this, we have a question. Why does the pasuk switch the way it expresses itself? When it comes to the candles of the Meneda, of the Ma'edis B'Rikei Hashemayim, he says Yerushivas Haneiros, so it's going to be 7 candles. By the natives of the neshamas, it still says natives stam. It doesn't mention a number. In other words, we brought down from the Frierdiker Rebbe's Maimer that the natives of the Meneda, the Bhaloscha Es Haneiros, the first time, doesn't say Sheva natives. Why doesn't it say Sheva natives? Because it's talking about the neshamas of the Yidden. The neshamas of the Yidden is the idea of Neravai and Nishmas Adam. So we're not talking about the idea of 7. It's one Indian. But the Rebbe says over here that the pnimius of the natives of the Meneda are the neshamas. And the neshamas are also divided into 7. So even if you're going to tell me that Bhaloscha Es Haneiros is talking about the neshamas, it should still be 7. Because the neshamas of Yidden are also divided into 7 types. So we're back to our question of why doesn't it say a number? Why does it just say native stam? Clear? Make sense? Okay. One stands according what the Alter Rebbe explains in L'Kutei Torah, that the 7 candles of the Meneda refer to 7 types of Yidden. And how are they distinguished into 7 types? They're distinguished by the way they serve the Eibishter. How is that? Yes, Eivid me'ava mashach kamayim, which this is chesed. There's a Yid who serves the Eibishter out of a love which draws down, which is drawn down like water. In other words, it's a hamshacha. It's a ava that comes in eifin of hamshacha and eifin of chesed. And then there's a different type of love, and that love is like a flaming fire, and that goes from below to up, like the nature of gvura. Right? In other words, there's a calm ava, and there's a passionate, flaming ava. So he says there's the ava like Moshach Kamayim. That's the one type of neshamas, and that corresponds to neshamas who are from the sphere of chesed. And then there are neshamas have shaykhs to the sphere of gvura, and that's a different type of ava. And so too, he mentions just the ikar midas chesed and gvura, and so too you have 5 other remaining types of neshamas. So that makes over a very, very interesting and geschmack diuk. It says that why did the Alter Rebbe say that there are 7 different types? Did the Alter Rebbe say that there are 7 different types of neshamas? No. He said the neshamas are divided into 7 different types of service to the Eibishter. Ba'avedasam, in the way they serve the Eibishter. There's one neshama that serves the Eibishter in the Kava Chesed, and another neshama serves the Eibishter in the Kava Gvura, and so on for the remaining midas. But l'chora, what do we do over here with the Zayin Nedis? We turn them into 7 separate candles.
So it's like same neshama. It's the same. That's doing different.
It's the same type of neshama. In other words, there's one type, so there should be one candle. If they're all one type, there should be one candle. Doing different avedis, that doesn't touch the essence of the neshama. What's the shver?
No.
Yeah. Well, you say that there are, take any arbitrary number, but let's just say there are 10 types of people. Yeah. There's a lawyer, a doctor, a businessman, a software developer. You don't say 7 types of people. There's one type of person. They do different types of work.
There is one neshama.
There's one neshama, one type of neshama. It's one Indian. It's one type of thing that does different types of work. So why are you saying that 7 natives, that you're saying the native, the neshama itself, there are 7 different ones of them? Just because the Aveda is different? That was a very geschmack answer. Why was a Yid created? To serve the Eibishter. The Rebbe loves this girsa. The girsa and the Gemara Stam is I was created to serve my creator. Yeah, my master. You see in Ara 18, there have been several places in Kisveyad and in the Yalkut and in other places. That there's another girsa in the Gemara that's actually says, what's the difference between the 2 lashonos? So loy ella means that the thing does not exist. And nivresi l'shamish eskeni means I nivresi, I exist, I am what I am, I have my own mitzvahs, I have my own identity. L'shamish eskeni. Now this mitzvahs which exists has to serve its creator. They have always kvetches. Ani loy nivresi. I don't exist. I am here. You hear me. I see you. You see me. We're talking. Ella l'shamish eskeni. There's such an Indian of the Eibishter wanted somebody to serve him, so therefore I exist. So there has to be a person. So what's the uptype of person? Not I exist. The uptype of a person is l'shamish eskeni. So certainly according to Ani leini v'esi ella l'shamish eskeni. L'chein achiluk b'eifan avidasam hashumish eskeni. The difference in the way the Yidden serve the Eibishter. This is something that touches on the very essence of what they are. So if they're distinguished by the way they serve the Eibishter, then they're distinguished down to the very core of what they are. It's a whole other way of looking at a person, looking at ourselves. Your whole uptight changes. You become a different type of a person. Based on how you serve the Eibishter, it means that you're a different type of a person because it touches the essence of what you are. Okay. And according to what Chazal say on this The zesh in Yanish Adam and Neshama L'Shamash Eskenu B'Negei L'Briyasa Yididus Neshama L'Briya. This that you say L'Shamash Eskeni, that's only referring to the Neshama when it already came down into Olam Habriya. But the neshama, as it is, like we say every morning, the neshama should have to be tahirahi, which this reference is l'mayla m'chinas ata berasa. I wonder why it doesn't say clearly atzilus, but definitely in other places. It says, but it says clearly in other places that's atzilus. Maybe because he doesn't want to limit it to atzilus. Maybe because over here he's leaving it open that it's even beyond atzilus.
Right.
So since this neshama is a part of the Eibishter mamash. So einam tzoy leizinin acher gam loy leinin de l'shamash eskena. That's what the Rebbe sagt. The neshama isn't a means to an end for nothing, not even for this lofty idea of serving the Eibishter. Why? Because the neshama is a chelik lekam mal mamash. V'atachlis hu ba ba'atzma. What's the neshama for? The neshama is for the neshama, not for any other purpose. Al derech say when you get to Teda Lishma, Chassidus teaches Teda Lishma. Teda is l'shem ha-Teda atzma. Right? How do we teach typically Teda Lishma? Either on the lower level, so you should know how to serve the Eibishter, what to do, or Teda Lishma, that you're not learning for the sake of reward, you're learning for the sake of Yediyas ha-Teda. But Chassidus teaches Teda Lishma is not even for the sake of Yediyas Teda. Teda Lishma is pshat, Teda for the sake of Teda. It's pshat Teda for the sake of Teda, because Teda is chachmasa yiritzeni shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So it doesn't serve any other purpose. Not even the purpose of Yediyas ha-Teda. It serves one thing and one thing only, the inyan of Teda, not anything else. It's not a means to any other end because of its dveikus in the Eibishter, because it's one with the Eibishter. So to the neshama, which is a chelik lekami mal mamash, it's not shaykh to say on it that nivreisi l'shamash eskeni, that it exists for a certain purpose, for a certain reason, because it's a chelik lekami mal mamash. A chelik lekami mal mamash exists because it exists, just like the Eibishter exists because he exists. So a part of the Eibishter that he puts into the form of a neshama exists because it exists, not for any other reason. So when do we say that's only after the neshama already was lowered? It already came down into Elam Habriya. But when the neshama stands in its own place where it is itself, so to speak, so over there's no such a thing that it's for a certain purpose. It's there for itself as a chelik lekami mal mamash. So according to this, move on. So according to this, we understand that the separation, the differences between the neshamas, which is caused by the way they serve the Eibishter, is only in etzem mitziyusam, but at the level of a bria, as they are a bria. So the Rebbe is modifying what he said before, that this that's negeh to etzem mitziyusam, it's only etzem mitziyusam as they stand in Elam Habriya. But as they stand beyond Elam Habriya, over there you already can't be mechalik between the neshamas. You can't say there are 7 natives, 7 neshamas. They're much beyond that. Now we can understand why it says Bhaloscha Es Haneiros, and he doesn't give a number 7. This aliyah that Aaron HaKohen brings about in the neshamas is not only in the madrega of the neshama the way it is in Biyah, which in Biyah you would already say Bhaloscha Es Haneiros, because in Biyah you already have the distinction between different neshamas based on the way they serve the Eibishter. The pasuk doesn't say that. The pasuk just says neshamas without a number, which this is talking about the neshamas the way they stand at the madrega of Tahirahi, beyond Biyah. And Bhaloscha Es Haneiros is pshat that Aaron through his aveda brings about an aliyah even in this higher level of the neshama, which is in the madrega of Tahirahi, and on which we don't give a number, we don't give a count. That's one thing. This that the Fidik Rebbe we brought from the Fidik Rebbe's Maimer earlier, that Bhaloscha Es Haneiros is only in the neshamas of Biyah. Yeah, the typical explanation of Chassidus is that you have certain neshamas that don't need Bhaloscha. You have the neshamas of Atzilus, they don't need Bhaloscha, because those neshamas of tzaddikim, even when they descended down into this world, they still maintain their nature of ratzah, of going to the Eibishter in a revealed way. It's only in the neshamas, and they're called Zera Adam in Navi. It's only the lower level neshamas, which are called Zera Behema, which come down to Biyah, that are affected by the body and that are affected by Elam Hazeh, and therefore their nature of going up to the Eibishter is lost. So it's only going to get to those natives, to those neshamas, that Aaron has to do the avodah of Bhaloscha. Over here, the Rebbe is saying no. It's also been get to the neshamas the way they stand at the level of tahira, beyond biyah, that Aaron Akaim brings about an aliyah. Bhaloscha Es Haneiros, those neiros also. The key mashalidated asam lebiyah. He's explaining what I explained outside. What he's saying inside. The key mashalidated asam lebiyah tebarat zivali shlamu be'alem. That when get to those neshamas, Aaron Akaim has to do bhaloscha. Why? Because they descended into biyah. And now the nature of aliyah by them is concealed. However, that's only the beginning of the story. However, afterwards, they have an even greater aliyah. That they go even higher than the way they were before they came down into this world. In other words, before they came down into Biyah, where were they? In Tahira. And the beginning of the aliyah that Aaron Akain causes Bhaloscha Es Haneiros is that they should go up from the level of Biyah back to the way they were initially at the level of Tahirahi, when their nature of running to the Eibishter, of going out to the Eibishter, was revealed. But Bhaloscha Es Haneiros, without counting 7 neiros, which that is talking about Tahirahi, he says that Aaron Akain actually brings the neshamas to a higher level than what they were before they came down into this world in the first place. So even higher than they were at the level of Tahirahi. Next to